second of for the first day of the month, but certainly a pinch and punt for the first trading day of the month. Let's hope it's a cracker, eh? What have we got? We will start with gold, as always. Happy October to you too, Paul. October. That means 2 months and 3 weeks from Christmas. Oof. Pretty scary, eh? We have got a new format today, and I will share that with you very, very shortly. Pretty much the same. It's just a little bit more formal, if you like, or more scheduled, if you like. That's not gold. That's dollar CAD, which we got into last week. We'll share that with you in a little bit. That's gold, and that is the, my goodness, looking at Tuesday winner, Wednesday winner, Thursday not so much, Friday not so much. Okay, we'll have a look at those a little bit later. Are we going to trade this today is the question, and I don't have an answer yet, but it doesn't look fantastic for the downside, I've got to say. Tradability-wise, upside looks a bit better, but let's have a look and see where the range is. That is the first candle of the day. That's the second candle of the day. So there's our high of the day above that candle. Right there. Low of the day is the current bar. No, the one price preceding right there. So what have we got? We've got a risk factor of about $10 and a reward factor of about 9, if we're fortunate. To DS1, it's not so good. It's $1.30, or pretty good to DS2 if we were willing to go that far. I'm not, because if it goes short, we've got an untested daily pivot up here. Not so sure that's a major factor with gold. In fact, I must do that exercise one day. We might do that in a quiet period at some stage, but I'm not trading in DS1 at $1.30 on a $10 risk. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So upside would work, but barely, and downside not so much. So no, I'm not going to trade it today. If it breaks to the downside, that's a good decision. If it breaks to the upside and goes to DR1, not such a good decision. We'll see. Okay. Updates. Well, we were on dollar CAD, so let's go back to there. Dollar CAD was our weekly trade from last week, and it tipped us in, and then we went through a world of pain, frankly, until Friday. Wasn't really a world of pain, bit of pain. And Friday's bar, there was obviously news on Friday. I don't know what it was, frankly, because I've been nowhere near the charts. But the news on Friday took us back into profit. And now today, I think our fate will be determined. This could go either way, as I described when we took the trade, because we are, in fact, in a descending channel, and we have come off the top. So really, we're looking for a lower high in here to trade it short. But I'm tipping, forecasting, analysing, projecting, whatever, that we go back to this level here to pick up that lower high. And if the channel breaks, then we've got a trend continuance, and we're good to go. So trading it long really was just to play on getting that lower high or the breakout, one or the other. I don't think I'd like to see this go back beyond our entry, but we'll keep an eye on that today. Other trade we were in last week was Swissy yen, and similar to dollar CAD, actually, we're in a descending channel, not quite similar to dollar CAD. This has in fact played out almost to the letter going in the opposite direction to the way we wanted to trade. Wanted to trade this way because it was very, very early days, and Gary pointed this out to us last week. It was very early days on a potential reversal, and similar to CAD Swiss that we've traded in the last couple of weeks, this would be a fantastic trade if it played out, because you're minimum coming down to here, in my humble opinion. So that's why it was quite attractive to take that trade. And I have no regrets at all. I took TP1 barely, I've got to say. We got our TP1 by a pip or two. Actually, I think it was about 5 pips. And then our stop loss was taken out for a break-even trade. I considered trading this short again today because we had this bar here on the daily chart. However, on the weekly, we have quite the opposite of that. We have this game changer bar, if you like. It's not quite a game changer, but it's to that area where we've come off a new bottom at a support level, and we've closed near the high. I wouldn't say on the high, definitely not on the high, but it looks now as though this channel is going to fill. And I'm not yet convinced that we're not going short, so I'll be looking for up here to continue to trade this short, even if only inside the channel. So that would make perfect sense to me. So let's look at Swissy yen down the track. And that's not the only one I'm looking at against the yen, frankly, because I think there's a few that are potentially turning around. And that said, the one I chose to trade this week, not on a weekly chart, but on a daily chart, is pound versus the yen. Currently going away from our entry, so no entry at this point. Got my entry underneath the bar, but also underneath the weekly pivot, which I think makes a whole lot of sense. And what am I playing here? Well, really, I'm just playing a break and retest, if you like, of this former resistance and support level. Once again, we've got a channel in play. And once again, we're going in the opposite direction. A lot of these channels play out to the halfway mark and then fail, and I think that's a possibility with this one as well. The reason I say that is the monthly pivot. So I'm not sure we're going to reach the high side of this channel this time round, just like we didn't here, where we came off the weekly pivot. And the weekly pivot for the last couple of times has acted as strong resistance. Not so much last week. In fact, the resistance was broken and failed, or price failed, to come back underneath that on Friday. So I'm thinking maybe the monthly pivot takes over and provides us with that resistance. And that's why this bar here is still in play for mine. If the monthly pivot's taken out and we go to the top of the channel, then I'll reassess and look for another way to get in short. But I still will be looking for that way in short, and unless these highs are taken out, and I don't suspect that will be the case. Okay, so that is pound yen. That's the only position I have taken thus far this week, but I am very, very tempted to go this way on the S&P 500. And the reason is probably clear to you now after all of those channels that I've just spoken about. We have come back inside the descending channel, which is probably juvenile, I would say, in its formation. Yet this area here is very, very interesting on the weekly chart, where price was absolutely smashed at that level last time we got there, prior to this breakout, of course. And now we're coming back and retesting that level from the high side. Monthly chart suggests that it has also been a support area in the past until it was hammered, retested. That set that off. Now we're going exactly the opposite way, broken it again. We're retesting it now. So I anticipate that there is, and I don't know why fundamentally this will happen. In fact, the indices are going quite the opposite at this point in time. Yet, when I look at this chart, I think, very, very, very strong. And maybe, just maybe, we're going to have a look at this high again. That's what the chart's telling me anyway. We're going to have a little crack. Whether it makes it or not is another story. But on the weekly chart, we are at a support level. We're at the bottom of our channel. And for that reason, I'm keen to trade this long. I don't have a setup. That's my only issue at the moment. So what I probably need to see on a smaller time frame than the weekly, certainly, is something that makes sense. And at the moment, the only thing that makes sense is we're at a support level. I'd like to see price hit the monthly pivot and come back and maybe hit the backside of this trade line, but certainly give us a higher low in here. Then I could justify taking a trade to the upside. At the moment, I can't. Perhaps that sets up on a smaller time frame. I don't know. I'm not really keen to trade these indices on a smaller time frame because I don't know them too well. So keep my eye on the S&P 500. Quickly, we've got about 4 minutes to go before I sign off for now. I'll go through the weekly game changer bars, bearing in mind that I have a strong opinion that we're getting close to a trade short against the yen. So let's have a look at them. First of them is Aussie CAD, and I'll just briefly go through these. Aussie CAD suggesting, wrong one, suggesting that we buy here. I like the fact that we've got a double bottom in place, but I don't like the candle. It's a very, very big, well, when I don't like the candle, say I don't like the candle, it's a strong rejection of that low, no question. But I'd need to see price pull back somewhat. If it did that today, I've got a classic setup. So tomorrow, if I've got a bear bar here, retesting that trade line, you will probably, well, you will see me attempt a long position there. A little bit of an issue in this trade line going through here, but if I can get in tight enough, I can probably take profit before that. So I'm not against Aussie CAD long, but I don't want to trade it on that weekly bar. I'd much prefer to see that false break set up. So CAD versus the Swissy finally reached a resistance level that turned it around, took some time, and here we are now thinking, is this the opportunity to get into this, given that our analysis was telling us that we're going up to here at some stage, or certainly up to here? My answer to that question is I have to wait and see, because this range that's been formed here now is telling me that if we get a lower high, we're going back here or back in this direction. So I'm not yet willing to trade CAD Swiss as a continuation trade. Rather, I'd be waiting for one of two things to happen, as I said, lower high here or take out these highs, then pull back and retest. If that were the case, then I can continue with the trade. But if it isn't, then I'll be looking to trade this short on the short to medium term. Euro CAD on the weekly, probably a stronger proposition at this point in terms of love the support level that it's hit, rejecting. So I can see upside for this one in the short to medium term this week. Can't trade it as yet, but similar to Aussie CAD, if it got a pullback to this line here, I'd be interested. Euro versus the yen, as I said, I'm keen at some stage to get short anything against the yen. Maybe this is one of them. If it does break through this trade line, fails to take out these highs, then comes back under it, gives me a retest, then I'd be happy to trade that. It could even just be a range trade on the smaller time frames, 84 in particular, which is almost to the point where it's setting up if it comes back underneath that trade line. That's Euro Yen. There's only one more, I think, and it is pound versus the CAD. Similar things you could say with the CAD, where it's had just such this amazing run, in particular against the pound, which has been very, very weak. Come off the bottom. I wouldn't like to trade this at all on the evidence that I've got before me. big bullish engulfing bar, no question. Big follow through on that, no question. I'd need to see it come back to that breakout area before I'd consider trading it. Okay, just before we go to Ash, I did tell you we've got a new format, and there it is. That's the new Trading Buddies as of today, this very day. We're only going on Mondays, and we've just done this little bit where I've been discussing the gold breakout trade, and if it sets up, we trade it. If it doesn't, we don't. Tick. I've shown you my analysis for the week, and I'll be looking at all of those pairs that I've discussed. Now it's Ash's turn. He's going to go for 10 minutes, and then we're going to turn over to George for 10 minutes. And at the end of George's session, which is around about the half-hour mark, we will open it to you guys and really encourage you to ask your questions at that point or share your ideas at that point. If that is not the case and nobody wants to share anything, guess what? We're going home. We're going home. Let me get that out properly. Although we are at home, I'm going downstairs. Not sure where Ash is going. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all, mate. Not too bad at all. Interesting, actually. Just listening to your analysis, it's quite similar to mine in a few currency pairs.
Okay.
So we'll bring that in. Yeah, we'll bring it in. Let me show you a couple of things that I am looking at.
Please do.
The Kiwi dollar straight away. Now the slight issue with kind of Kiwi and the Aussie this week are the interest rate decisions. So they're both due this week, which means this might get pushed around. But I like the Kiwi dollar for a long. I don't know whether it's a good idea to go long here, and I think I might need just a little bit of information just to kind of pass over the next few days and maybe wait for that interest rate decision. Where I am starting the month, which is where I always start the month, is just actually looking through the monthly charts. Actually looking at sort of because we're at the start of the month, so it's well worth just having a look to see where we are. Now we've got this bar here on the Kiwi dollar. But do we have a genuine area of support? Maybe. It's a little bit questionable. I think I like these turnaround bars that come and get tested from the upside right back to the highs, and we've had a bounce there, so that would suggest some upside. When I bring it in to a slightly tighter view, I've got a few trend lines along here, which we've just tested. I think, yeah, we're right on top of that test, which is a decent looks like a decent area of price to try and get in. The daily might show us something slightly different. No, it's not. It's actually okay. It's actually okay, So I quite like the Kiwi dollar. Kiwi dollar for some upside. I wouldn't mind just seeing this particular thing turn into a higher low here. That looks like that looks like it's going to hold, and currently it is. But all we've really had is a big move to the upside, and we've broken through this little area of resistance here. So, it looks like we tested that as well. Not really, not with anything that convincing. And it kind of feels like start of the month kind of stuff. Where we might just get a little bit of an unwinding of some of those positions that were held last month, and I think this is one of them. Kiwi dollar, so Kiwi dollar for some upside. The Euro CAD, I'm totally with you. I mean, the Euro CAD actually looks really attractive when you look at the longer term timeframes. Not so much on the monthly. When you go to the weekly,
sorry, mate, just to butt in, I did flag Kiwi CAD on the weekends. Now they just moved off. Sorry, not on the weekend, on Thursday. I'm hoping some people got hold of that because it was a clanger.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, we'll have a look at that as well. Because I'm interested in Kiwi. I mean, I think the elections are taking a bit of a part in it, but I think maybe those interest rate decisions might also be playing a part. Euro CAD also looks very attractive to me here, and that would suggest that maybe we are starting to see that CAD Swiss just unwind a little bit. And we see a little bit of downside, but when you look at this, the support level is really quite good. We a decent neckline here. So we've got this head and shoulders pattern right on top of the neckline. decent looking bar as well last week. This hammer down here, hammering out the low on a weekly chart. So when we look at this on a daily, same as you, I just want to see this retest, maybe this level, maybe even the weekly pivot, and then maybe this level down here, and then see if we can start getting into this market on a long side. So as I said earlier, I think it's a little bit early for some of these. You know, the Kiwi dollar, maybe that one was a missed opportunity actually. Now looking at it, but this one doesn't look so bad. I think coming back into this weekly pivot under the trend line actually, but that would be an attractive place for me to try and pick this one up. So interested in Euro CAD. And I'm also interested in the pound CAD, funnily enough. Pound actually, or the UK actually, printed some half decent GDP numbers, you know, considering where we are. Don't love the level, but there is a level here, but I don't love it. It's a little bit woolly, you know. It's not as quite as defined as that Euro CAD position, but same sort of thing with the bar. Now this does say to us really that maybe the CAD is the weak one. Maybe we're not looking at pound strength. Maybe we're looking at CAD weakness. And that would suggest that, you know, maybe sort of a few of these currencies actually do go up against the CAD. And when you look at these moves down here, they've been pretty aggressive. Normally, I'd like to see some accumulation, but with such an aggressive move, these are much more likely to get some kind of reversal relatively quickly. So looking at a potential bounce there. And you mentioned the Kiwi CAD. Yeah, Kiwi CAD actually looks even better for some upside. It doesn't look like a better area to get in, but it looks better for some upside. Now, again, that needs to come back for me. Now, that weekly pivot would look really good on this one. Let's just have a look at it on longer term time frames. Yeah, it looks all right, doesn't it? Actually, looks like possibly this area down here was a bit of a false break. We've come back into this area here, had a decent bounce so far, and it looks like we might have just broken out of an accumulation period down here. So coming back into this weekly pivot, that is going to look attractive for me. Now, when I see this and I'm expecting kind of some retracement, that would put me off the Kiwi dollar, no matter how it looks right now, even though it's kind of having a decent surge, that would put me off the Kiwi dollar, because really what I want is some retracement in the Kiwi, and it probably would happen across the board. This one is probably my favorite. So Kiwi CAD for some upside, back down to the weekly pivot, back down to the monthly pivot, back down to this trend line, and I'd be on board with this one. And I suppose depending on when it happened, we might even match a little bit of this trend line as well. I might get close to that particular trend line as well. Let me just see. That would need to be, no, it's too late. Yeah, it's too late. It's too late in the game. But here, that looks attractive, mate. So Kiwi CAD will probably be the one. I think we need to wait a little while and see what establishes itself, and then we will you know, see if we can get on board with anything. Quick look at the indices. You know, I'm with you. The indices look a little bit suspect. There's no question. Probably will see some buying today. I don't see why we wouldn't see some buying today, but I don't think we're getting through anything significant. I think maybe sort of coming up to this level up here, which has been pretty nicely respected so far. Coming up to that level there and then probably failing is the most likely scenario. I don't think we go through. ISM is reported later on, and that's going to give us a look of the US economy, and that probably would boost both the Nasdaq and the S&P into that number. But from there, there's probably a bit more downside when you look at these on longer term time frames. You know, still an untested area down here after a parabolic move. So I think indexes are coming down. I could see the CAD coming down. Oil may well suffer off the back of it as well. Even though it sounds a bit strange to be calling oil short, but the level is pretty good. You know, that's a relatively good weekly horizontal level. So maybe a bit of a pull back in oil as well, but then probably a turnaround. So a bit of waiting is the name of the game for me today, mate. Not going to be diving into anything.
Yeah, look, I was happy just to place that one on the S&P if it pulls back for me, but I'm also happy to let it go if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, sorry,
yeah.
If it crashes back short, I'm also happy to let it go. So I think because George is not in the room, we'll continue on having a little old chat, which is cool.
Sure, mate. Yeah, I mean,
because I forgot to tell George that we got a new format.
Oh,
He'll
yeah.
probably be in 10 minutes' time, which is fine.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
No dramas. Yen.
Yes.
I wanted to get your opinion of the yen, either from a seasonal or a COT perspective. Is it possible that the yen can strengthen?
On a seasonal basis, yes, and not because the yen shows particular strength, but what it does show is a little bit of innocuous kind of movement over the next month to three. It kind of goes into a sideways trend against the dollar. But what we also see are things like the CAD, as an example, actually starting to really weaken. So I think you'd probably still have to pick the correct. You'd have to pick the correct currency pair. I don't think it's going to be by any means the strongest currency on the table until we see the BOJ actually start to strengthen their monetary policy, and they're just not doing that. You know, they went back into the market and bought a load of JJBs again last week, so it's weakening the yen consistently, and they just don't seem to be that keen on tightening their stance, and because of the BOJ, it makes the yen almost an untradeable long. I mean, I'm completely with you, looking for it. You know, we really want it because the price of it is so attractive. But actually, it just keeps rolling over. I was in the euro yen last week, and short, and it just didn't do anything. It kind of fluctuated around. It almost threatened and flattened to deceive, as it did sort of move to the downside briefly. But then it just started to, now it started to turn around again. And I heard you talking about the euro yen. This would have to get back under that level just for a technical hint that we could actually be weakening. But actually, the fundamentals on the yen, because of the BOJ, just don't suggest upside. CAD yen, which is almost quite an interesting one. When you look at this on the daily, Friday's bar may well be quite descriptive of what's going to be happening with the CAD, not the yen, but the CAD, because it was so negative. And even though I think that the CAD yen, if you're looking for anything to go short, the CAD seems to be a decent one to look for. I think there's probably better things to trade against the CAD than the yen. Euro would be an example, or definitely the Kiwi.
Well, I said on Thursday Kiwi CAD was the one.
Yeah.
And of course, forgot completely about waking up on Friday morning and trying to trade it.
Yeah.
So I've missed it. But I suppose if it comes back.
I think it does need to come back, as you say. I mean, it was a big move on big move on Friday. But if this is Friday's price action, we may well have already had a test of that level somewhat as well. So actually, if we tighten that area up there, it looks like we did test it even on Friday. But it could do with a little bit of, for this to be a really healthy move up. Neither of us particularly like to see that kind of thing. So no. A move back into this area. Monthly pivot would be a really, really good zone. Maybe even a little bit lower would be really good. So it does need to ease back down. And I wonder whether we might get that off the back of the interest rate decision. Not that the interest rate decision drives it down, but maybe there's a little bit of profit taking before it, and then we can get in. So I don't necessarily think this is a missed opportunity just yet. And if it is, it is. And it's one of those things with trading, isn't it, that sometimes you know the direction and you know what you need to see, but when it doesn't unfold, you just have to hold your hands up and say, there's no safe way for me to get into this market. So I've got to protect my capital more than I need to make money. That's the first job, isn't it? Make sure the defense is good. Make sure you're tight in your defense, and you're not risking money that actually could be possibly put to better use, maybe in a day or two, maybe in a week or two, whenever it is. So there's no reason to be jumping into anything except for a bit of FOMO. So I'm not willing to play that, and particularly on the first day of the month, I'm not willing to play that. I think that there's a bit of unwinding. There's lots of this story to go. We've got the whole month to get into it. What would be fantastic, and our challenge is, can we find a similar trade to the CAD Swissy this month, which makes up our month? That's what we're after, right?
Let's talk about CAD Swiss.
Yeah,
we held, and you heard. I don't know if you heard my analysis on it, but
I did.
do we now, as I said, wait for a break of the high, or do we trade a higher low?
Oh, for
Because
sure, a higher
because
low.
I've got that range in.
Yeah.
I've got that coming quite a ways back.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I mean, this is similar to what we are just talking about with the CAD Swiss. Sorry, with the Kiwi CAD. You know, parabolic moves
Yes.
tend to reverse quite aggressively, which is why we don't like to trade them. And look, that's already under the level and coming down quite hard. There is no suggestion that the CAD is in a particularly strong position going into the end of the year seasonally. It's you know, Euro CAD particularly, like during November, it's an absolute bloodbath really for the CAD. So the CAD should sort of start to see some downside. Now I don't know whether it's going to come back in here, create a a higher low, and then go straight away. I wonder whether we might need to come back and just settle down a little bit. It will happen probably before November, but yeah, I think we're looking for the higher low. I still think we're looking for upside here. I still think the narrative with oil, even though oil could do with coming back a bit, I still think that's quite bullish. So I think that the CAD could come back. I mean, the surprising thing about the CAD Swiss is the fact that it's broken this level so easily. You know, it's gone through, no problem at all. Now, you would assume it would come, if it was in a strong trend to the upside, you'd assume it would come down here and settle and then start going again. But that hasn't happened. The fact that this is broken through suggests that there's actually more downside to come here. I don't think it's going to reverse the whole move, but there's a lot to go and it still be bullish. You know, this could come down here and it still could be a buying opportunity, maybe even down here and still be a buying opportunity. So there's, I think we are waiting for the higher low. I think the danger now is this whole area becomes very, very difficult. If it doesn't retrace the whole lot, then it becomes like this zone becomes, whoops, it's the wrong color. This zone here becomes quite difficult. If it doesn't retrace the whole lot and comes down here, making it really kind of a lot more obvious, then where do you get in? And I guess the answer to that is as soon as you see a signal for a reversal, it's probably worth taking the punt on it and coming back, because you know it is a surge and it is incredibly low still when you look at the longer term timeframes. But that suggests downside. You look at the Euro CAD, that suggests upside. You look at the pound CAD, that suggests upside. So the CAD looks weak at this stage. Aussie CAD, that suggests upside. Kiwi CAD, you know, so the CAD looks like the one to go for, which means that it doesn't really matter what that that CAD Swiss does at this stage. We're probably still trading the weakest currency if we try and go long. So I think we ignore it for now.
All right, let's go to gold.
Oh yeah.
Are you still willing to buy it? Are you still looking for a buy?
I am looking for a buy. I'm really looking for a buy because I think the dollar is well and truly overcooked. I think that the things are going to change, and I still think that it's similar to the yen. You know, we can't make a case for the yen with the BOJ, but we could make a case for the yen in regards to the global concerns. So this would suggest to me, and it's difficult to find the exact level because I don't get 3 clean touches here, or even 2 clean touches on the way down. I'd have to really play around and see where it might be, but it might be here.
Not sure if I've lost Ash or I've lost the whole system. Guys, if you can hear me and not.
Oh no. Who can you hear, guys? Can you hear me? Or can you hear Ash? Jeff? I don't think anybody can hear me.
I'm back.
You're back?
Yep, both sound okay. Looks like nobody lost us.
Oh, cool.
But
cool.
I lost it. So anyway.
Yeah, I lost you briefly. Can hear you both. Okay, Paul, please. Thanks, Paul. So yeah, so gold might be here, might well be here, but it doesn't look like a great area when you kind of draw some other trend lines. It looks like it's through some areas, and it might come down a little bit more. It looks like there's a horizontal level probably there. Looks okay. So that would suggest 1819. Maybe the 1800 level might even get tested. Going out a bit further on the monthly. There's areas here, so I like gold for a long, but I just don't know whether we're quite at the area we need to be looking for that position on, and I think it would be too dangerous right now. But I do like it. I think it's a long, but over a much longer period of time than I'd be used to trying to trade. At this stage, you shouldn't be doing anything, in my opinion. This is now a breakout to the downside. Now that when you look at these the weekly and the daily, breakout to the downside, and an aggressive and quite a voluminous breakout to the downside, which means that if you're trying to get short, you've missed a lot of money, and that makes it more dangerous. It's still going,
and maybe we shouldn't have missed it because of last week's, the week before last, rejection of the is it the monthly pivot?
You're absolutely right, mate. I mean, technically speaking, and I've seen a lot of these. There's a lot of these that I think, when it comes down to it, look really obvious in hindsight.
I keep pointing them out, but I fail to get into them.
Well, do you know what? I'll tell you what my problem was, is that I was long, and I was long here. I was long on here. So I was looking for this pattern to break to the upside. Because when you look at this was basically questionable. It came down, created a lower low, came up, created a lower high, but then it was a higher low. So this was basically going it was a question, which way do you want to go? And I went on the long side. And actually, I did take profit here, to be fair. But when it was pulling back, I was looking to get back in again to see if I could, it would boost up again. But it never really took off. And actually, all that happened is it just catapulted its way lower, bombed its way lower. So there was no opportunity. So actually, even though it looks obvious, there was other messaging here which could have suggested that we went in the opposite direction. And after that interest rate decision was held by the Fed, I found it quite surprising that all of a sudden the market started to listen to the speech, because they haven't been listening all year. But this year, this time around, they did listen. Now that makes it a very difficult thing to do. So the only way to play this is be right and not worry about it, or be wrong and manage the money correctly. And fortunately, I was in the second camp, but unfortunately, I wasn't in the first camp. And I guess
you don't think I'm potentially on the right track here at all? We're going to argue about this until one gets to their target, I think.
What do you mean?
I'm still massively bearish. And like I said on Thursday, if I extend those or the previous two retracements, then I'm back down there somewhere.
The saddest thing about this, actually, we are on a bit of support here. The saddest thing about this, I mean, it would need to create a decent accumulation pattern for me to be anywhere near interested anyway. But the saddest thing about this is that you pick this up here. That's the most frustrating thing, is that you pick this up here back in May.
I've traded a few times, but nowhere near as much as I should have.
No, we should have been holding on to this.
Yeah.
We should this, and that's, I guess that's our new challenge, mate. Is that I think you and I mean, you saw this one a long way out. We both saw the CAD Swiss a long way out. So we can make our lives a lot easier. Let's come on the show next week and say we haven't got a trade because we've already got 5 on and we're looking to hold them for a month.
They're all going 10x, yeah.
They're all going 10x. So that's our new challenge, I think it was much less stressful trading that CAD Swiss. I loved it. It was brilliant.
It was.
Didn't have to do anything. Just open the account. It's making money every day, rather than have to scrabble around for new positions. So, and as I say, you picked this a long time ago. Now, what was the opportunity ever since this point? Well, probably there's one here. There was one here, and as you quite rightly pointed out, this is the other one here. But I had a problem with this pattern. You know,
I had a
that was
problem also.
yeah, and because of at the time there was this trend line, you see, that was working. It looked like it was working out. So when you look at this on a daily, it starts to look quite attractive when you see this these higher highs. Higher lows. So you know, I don't feel kind of too I don't feel too frustrated by missing this. I just think it's this feels like one of those things. And actually, because I feel like I traded it well, considering I wasn't in the right direction, I'm okay with it. But is it going lower? I think it probably is going lower. I mean, I wouldn't be looking to buy it here, that's for sure. Where it comes to where we start getting interested again, maybe here, maybe 1820. You know, maybe another 2% on this one, and then we can start looking at the upside.
Well, one of us will be probably able to tell the other that there's a setup going the opposite direction. So let's do that.
Yeah. Let's try, mate.
That.
Yeah. But right now, you and I both, our job is to get in the Kiwi CAD long.
Yes. Right now, that's good. The other one for me is pound yen short.
See, now this is the problem with it, and this is why you were asking me about the yen, I'm guessing. But this is the big problem with the yen, is you can't hold it, because as soon as you know, when you're not even wrong, but when you're
you're right, you get punished.
Yeah, you get punished. You get punished. It's an awful currency to trade short. Really is.
It's a day trade thing, isn't it? Really.
Oh, it's terrible.
Although I think I was talking the other day on one of my chats with some of the slingshot people, and I was saying, when you're in that position, what's wrong with, okay, if you're awake, you have to be awake, obviously. Yeah. Just prior to end of day, just close the trade.
Yeah.
Wait till the spreads come back to normal, and put it back on again.
Yeah. I totally agree. That's the way to do it, isn't it? That is definitely the way to trade it. Yeah, you're probably unlikely to miss a gap because it will get filled before it kind of goes again.
I think you're right. Just you might miss a few pips here and there, but at the end of the day, it could gap up for you if you're going short. You know, so not the end of the world.
Yes. I mean, it's it's a bit of management, but I think you're absolutely right. That's the only way I could see to trade it, really. And it not kind of hurt you on the swaps. However, let me give you a scenario. Let's say you trade the pound yen short, and that happens, and then that happens. Are you likely to close your position here?
Well, it has to be a discipline thing, doesn't it? That's what I'm going to do.
But would you, or would you just go, actually, a little swap? I'm not too worried about paying a swap here when it could just tank again.
No, I'd be okay with that. It's very rare that, on market open, it just tears off again. Very rare.
It is.
It's quite normal for price to retrace a little bit even at the beginning of the day.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
That happens
you
quite
might get
often.
A couple more pips. Yeah, why not?
Why not? You could pick up a little bit more. Why not?
All right, then, mate. Let's make that our technique for the yen. I mean, I did think about that the other day myself, actually. That's the way to trade it. But the problem is, if you're in a position that's losing a little bit, you haven't been stopped out, but you haven't made any money yet. It's just come back in between.
Yeah.
And then you're sort of taking off a position which is losing. That's quite frustrating, but probably still the right thing to do.
Yes, you need to have your wits about you there. Well, not so much your wits, but you've got to have the intestinal fortitude to be able to close in a losing position. I don't have a problem with that. Yet, in the situation of avoiding swaps, not a problem. In the situation where you can see, there's strong resistance just ahead, that's going to bounce it back in my direction. That's when it's hard.
Yes.
Because you can talk yourself out of actually doing the right thing.
Yes. But I like this one, mate. I like this one for a short. I think you're right. You know, and actually, I might even come on board with you. Monthly pivot looks like a good area, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Yeah, absolutely. But if it
Yeah,
gets through that, there's also the top of the channel.
It's just the yen. Just the yen is just such a beast of a.
Yeah,
It
it's
really
a
is.
toughie. It really is a
Yeah.
toughie.
It's a beast. I actually said last week after I saw the euro yen, I was in the euro yen, as I said, short, and after I saw the euro yen just kind of come down, mess about. I did this initially. I was like, well, hey, here we go. And then it came all the way, you know, it wasn't this obviously to what we got today. Coming back up again, creating these high lows. I was like, forget the yen. This is just rubbish. It's just a terrible currency to try and trade against. But a bit like you've been with gold in the past, you know, it's just awful. So yeah, I think unless really what I want with the yen is for everything to tank against it, give me a level and then just buy it and leave it, because actually then you get paid positive swaps. Yeah, but we're in that situation today where the yen is here, neither here nor there. The Swissie's neither here nor there really, but a bit of strength in the Swissie actually. So yeah, not really a day. I think a day to let pass and see what happens. Maybe this afternoon we'll see, but not interested at this stage, mate.
All right, happy days. I'm going to share my screen again.
Yep.
For those of you who've come in a little bit later than when I shared this before. This is our new format. And Catherine, perhaps we can talk about that later. Yes, because I can probably find someone to do that. This is our new format, guys, for a Monday. And, well, for the only trading buddies now, because we're only trading on a Monday. I've got a 15-minute segment for myself where we go through the gold trade if it's there, and also what I'm looking to trade this week. Ash does exactly the same thing as that, and hopefully gives me a directional bias from a seasonal point of view as well. Then George comes in, and I must tell George about this because he doesn't know. I'll share that with him a little bit later. So right now we're in overtime, and we're in your questions to us, or whatever you want to share with us, if anything. And if you don't want to share anything with us, then we'll simply close the show. And that's perfectly fine by Ash and myself. But we're more than happy to give you this opportunity to tell us what your thoughts are for the week, and or ask us questions on why we think what we think, etc., etc. So you've got a couple of minutes, guys, whilst we allow you to do that. And if did
you put that together there, mate? That schedule?
Oh, I did, mate.
Well, God, you got talents I didn't realise you had.
Well, I used a template. I just filled in. I can't take full credit for that because I'm absolutely hopeless. Although I did build my own website.
I'll tell you what, mate. There's a really, really good website. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, actually, Paul P's made a really good point here. Possible government shutdown in the US, which is postponed. Oh, yeah. Will it be business as usual for the DXY? That's a really interesting one. But do you know my biggest problem with the government shutdown is it happens every year, and every year, you know, the sort of there's a big furore and oh no, this is going to be awful this year. But I think over time I've just kind of taken it as a story that Bloomberg talk about because it's a story for now, you know, but it's not a real story. It's not really. I don't see that as news. The possible government shutdown, because they raise the debt ceiling every year, and it is just business as usual. So I think it is.
Maybe there's a research exercise for us, and it won't be me because I haven't got time. Every single time that happens, does it move the market? Just like you look at NFP or an interest rate announcement, has it in the past? You probably have to find out when those dates were.
I can tell you it does, mate. I can tell you it does. You know, it does move the market, but it's sort of it moves the market for a little while. Everybody gets a bit panicked because it's a just in case. There's almost this just in case sort of like trade that kind of goes on. but in the end, it just sweeps away and it does nothing. So usually it's an opportunity to actually go in the opposite direction. So I think actually Paul P's point is quite good, because I think it is business as usual for the dollar, but I think the dollar's coming to an end. In its particular in its current run. So actually, when they eventually kind of properly resolve it, then I think that maybe that's the trigger for the dollar to the downside. I don't know, but I do think the dollar's coming down. I don't think the dollar's got that much further to go. So yeah, right now business as usual is fine, but I think there's probably another story that comes up that changes things for the dollar, and it's probably to do with interest rates. At this stage, everybody's expecting interest rates to continue to go higher, and I guess with the inflation narrative not really going away, there's every chance that could happen, but they still kind of want a soft landing. I don't know if Jerome Powell's that bothered about a soft landing, but I still think they'd quite like a soft landing. So I don't think they're going to go too much higher in these interest rates. And it's a strange economic situation that we're in, really, where things are weakening, but price hikes are sticking around because wages are still kind of going up, and interest rates are going up, but it's not really kind of having the effect that they need at this stage. I mean, it has lowered inflation, it has brought inflation back a little bit. But the question really for all these central banks is how aggressive do we want to push? Could we now just leave things as they are and see if they slowly ebb lower over the course of 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, rather than really going out after it and saying we want this done within 6 months? So I don't know whether to Paul's point, I don't know whether the government shutdown aspect is really going to be a tradable aspect of this, or whether actually it's really still to do with economic situations and interest rate rises and falls. Because they resolve it every year.
What I will do is just follow exactly what I'm seeing on the chart, because it's been extremely reliable.
Yeah.
We were calling this level down here.
Yes.
And here we are. So now it's time to make another decision. Do we come back into here and go there? Or does this retest this and go there? To me, the equation is very simple. Whether it sets up to trade it or not is another story. Has it set up already to trade that? Well, on the daily chart's telling me yes, it has. Because that's a perfect break and retest of the level, if the level's accurate, right?
Yeah.
The level's reasonably good for me if I put that line across there.
Yeah,
I think that level's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
So if it wasn't Monday, I think I'd be willing to trade that.
Short.
Long.
Okay.
Bum up to 108. But it is Monday, and I'm not willing to trade.
Yes. Well, I mean, you can see here, really. I mean, the price action is quite calm at the minute. But you are welcome, Paul. By the way, I mean, I have to say, I guess I'm a little bit jaded by the debt, the government shutdown thing, because I do hear it every year, and it's always resolved.
Well,
I'm
even
a bit
more
jaded
frequent than that.
Yeah, well, the problem for me then becomes that I would ignore it as a trading scenario to even bring into to play, and I may well be wrong, and I suppose I should maybe have that as a disclaimer. I might be completely off target with this stuff, but as I say, I'm a bit bored of that story, not from you, from Bloomberg and from CNBC and all those, because they say it's the same every single year. It's the same every single year. We're going to shut down. It's a last minute deal. I don't know whether just do the deal in the first place, and then there's no story. Mind you, they need a story. But yeah, I could be totally off. I could be completely off the mark with it. But it's just a bit of a non-event for me.
Okay, a couple of questions that we do have. Euro pound short. No argument from me. I need to go short under there though, or even under there. And that's from Gary. So what he's seeing is top of a range, off the top of the range, potential lower high. It's not yet a lower high, of course, but it is a potential lower high. So if today were not to take out that high, I think tomorrow I would look at that, Gary. Absolutely.
Can I give you another perspective on this as well, which I think
Please
even
do. Yeah.
it strengthens it even further. You bring that onto the weekly chart,
yep,
and forget the peak high. But if you just draw the you know from forget the high after the peak high, that one, and give us a trend line.
Yep.
I mean, look at that. I mean, it's just, you know.
Or you can even throw that one in as well if you want.
And you can throw that one in, yeah. That suggests we are at heavy resistance, and that you know that.
Look at this. Wow.
Yeah.
That's toppy like hell, isn't it?
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. You know, that's going to be frustrating for me, because if this euro does start to weaken, then and the yen strengthens, then that'll be frustrating, because that will suggest that I was a week early with my euro yen. Just quickly on COT data. COT data suggested maybe a bottom forming for the Aussie and the CAD. Interestingly, the Swissy is kind of going nowhere. Euro negative, pound negative, yen a little bit negative, dollar obviously positive, and Kiwi may be forming a bottom as well. So there is actually sort of some cases to be made for the Kiwi, some further cases to be made. But actually against the euro, I mean, you know, I don't know what you think about the euro Kiwi.
Look, I've been trying to get a short on that for ages.
Yeah, it's a bit low now, isn't it? It's kind of come down a bit too far.
Let's have a quick look. And when I've got your questions, we will come to them in a tick.
Here's the thing, isn't it? Some of the fundamental factors suggest one thing, but then you look at the chart, it's like it's now a bit too. It's gone a bit far.
Yeah, it needs to come back.
Yeah. But the Kiwi,
needs to come back to here.
The Kiwi actually, over the course of not this week particularly, but the Kiwi actually is the strongest currency going into the next quarter.
Yeah, well, it had a great week last week, and the week before it was pretty good as well.
Seasonally, that is.
Wing, can you repeat why it is difficult to trade the yen? There you go, Ash. That's your favourite subject.
I'll tell you why, in my opinion, it's difficult to trade the yen is because it's not difficult to trade the yen. It's difficult to trade the yen long. So euro yen short, or pound yen short, or dollar yen short. It's difficult to sort of have something, a currency pair with a yen second and short it. And the reason is twofold, probably multiple fold, but two really obvious ones stick out. Firstly, because the BOJ are the most dovish of all central banks, and that means that they are the most supportive of business and economic growth. And that means that their central bank will add more liquidity and more currency into the market. And of course, they are increasing supply. And when they increase supply, an increasing of supply of something tends to make it devalued, and tends to devalue it. And all the other central banks are going in the opposite direction. Even the Swiss National Bank, you know, on a minute scale, but they're all going in the opposite direction. So they're all tightening policy. The yen, okay, the BOJ do it a little bit, but in a kind of strange back street way. You know, they're not actually sort of taking, they're not raising interest rates. They're controlling the bond market. They're controlling the bond yield. They've got yield curve control, they call it. So their monetary stance is a lot looser than everybody else. That makes their currency easier to attain, which means that's cheaper. That's the first reason. Now, the second reason is because if you take a trade on a yen pair, you're paying swaps. You're paying to hold those overnight because of the interest rate differential. So if you were to buy the dollar yen, then your MT4, your broker would pay you. You'd get positive swaps. They'd pay you to hold positions because of the interest rate differential. Whereas if you sell the dollar yen, then they will make you pay for holding those positions because of the interest rate differential. So any long-term position, if you're a long-term trader and you're looking to hold positions for days, weeks, months, then it's costing you. It's costing you. So you've got to be sure, in my opinion. You've got to be more sure, I should say. You've got to be more certain that you've got the correct direction. And when you add more certainty into a market that doesn't create, it's not possible to be more certain about your strategy, in my opinion. I think you have your setup, and your setup is either a 50% strategy or 30%, depending on your targets and stuff. So it's difficult to kind of increase the probability of your strategy just because it's the yen. So that's why I think the yen is a difficult currency to add into the mix if you're going to short it. And actually, if you're going to go long against the yen, it's difficult because it's so cheap. It's a difficult currency to kind of add into the mix until we see a genuine flushing out. And then after that, then the longs probably do become a bit easier. But that's my problem with the yen. The moves have been really aggressive against it, which makes it a difficult one to continue to sell. But those negative swaps that you're going to get charged, and the BOJ's position makes it a difficult one to buy.
Certainly is, and I've been trapped a few times, thinking now's the time.
Yeah.
Now's the time. Horrible. It just doesn't happen. All right, and last question. I hope that helps, Wing. I hope that helps your understanding of the yen. What is the prospect for the pound? Well, I'm looking at pound versus the dollar, so I'll just stick to that. Reason being, dollar's been the strongest for quite some time, and therefore a measure against the dollar is probably a reasonable road to take. And when I look at this chart, it's telling me that we are at a strong support level. That's the monthly chart I'm looking at, right? And if you consider that every time we get to, what is the level, actually probably 120, is it? Yeah, 121-ish, around there, in this cloud of a price. Every time it gets there, since 2015, it's wanted to bounce off there. Now, we're talking around about Brexit time here. So, pardon me, that has played a major part, of course. And now we're in this range and have been in that range pretty much ever since, except for this breakout in, well, last year. Was there a reason, Ash?
What that we saw?
Just the dollar strengthened, I think, perhaps.
Oh yeah, well yeah, and interest rates. Sorry, the inflation numbers over here were the worst.
Yep. So my analysis right now, and this may well take a while to play out, is this, and I'm quite bullish in the longer term. And actually, there's a little bit of good news. It'll take a fair bit of good news from the pound because it's been so weak. But when I look at this, and this, that's my range, right? But then I look at this, and this, and that tells me one strike, which is a false break of support, two strikes, another false break of support, three strikes. So that's my three false breaks of support. Currently, we're retesting the bottom of that range, that particular range. So what I'm expecting to happen is price to bounce off this level yet again. It may go a little bit lower, but I'm expecting it to bounce off this once again. We're back inside the range, so I'm looking for this to go back to the top of the range. And I've got a thesis that suggests when I see three false breaks that are getting further and further and further down, and obviously in the opposite direction when they're going up, 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 the range that precedes that, which is probably in there, is broken to the downside. Now, I'm not suggesting you're going to see something like that. But what I am suggesting is this, ultimately, this range should break to the upside. It'll probably find resistance fairly quickly, maybe even there somewhere. But that's what I'm looking for. So object of the exercise for me is to find a buy in here somewhere and hold on to it until we get to there. Say, when I say hold on to it, I'll probably take profit at obvious levels there and there, but I'll be anticipating the break to the upside. So I guess that goes with Ash's thesis that the dollar is due to weaken. I'm a massive bear of the US dollar, massive bear, but I have to see where that's going to happen. And to me, there's only two places that that's going to happen. It's certainly in the short term or medium term, and that's at 108. I see that reversing. If it gets through that level, goodness knows, you can just follow the levels, I suppose, and the next one would be up around 111 maybe. I don't think it can take on these highs, but you just never know. So in terms of the pound, I'm a bull, but you've got to pick your timing fairly well. And that will coincide. Watch the dollar. The dollar will tell you that. If the dollar comes back into here, then I think you've got a fairly good case for trading the pound long. That's my thoughts on the prospects of the pound wing. Ash, you got anything outside that?
Well, no. The only thing that I would add to that is that I think is at an extremely attractive price. Now, obviously, that does kind of have to roll into the fundamentals, but the UK and I get a little bit kind of too tied up and emotionally. I'm emotionally attached to what's going on in the UK, and I hear the word on the street. So when I hear the word on the street, I know the economy isn't in great shape. But, and I'm not sure about it against the dollar per se, but if you compare what's going on in the UK to what's going on in Germany and France, I think the UK is actually, it's doing okay. It's resilient. It's a very resilient economy, actually, much more resilient than I've given it any credit for, because just when I think a number is going to come out and show that, okay, I've been right all along, the economy is absolutely battered and it's rotten to the core, the number surprises to the upside. So something is going right. Somebody's doing something right. And I suspect it's the government are doing something right to continue to bring investment into the country and to continue to support growth and bring inflation down. And they're bending the numbers and they've got a tough old job, but they're bending in numbers, pulling just about the correct strings at this stage. So not only keep us afloat, but just keep our head just above water, just so we're still breathing. So I like the pound, not because I like the pound for the economics situation, because I don't think it's by any stretch booming, but I do think it's robust. And the reason I like the pound is that I think it's been hammered on price, and I don't think that we are far away from a point where we're saying, actually, this is undervalued. That the currency is undervalued. And that's the way I would look at this personally. Not do we have a setup, not, are we at a technical level of support? Well, I suppose that does come into play, actually. So maybe not do we have a setup, because I don't have a setup. But I do. It does suggest to me that that this currency is undervalued, and we're in the region where we might well see a turn in the fortunes of the pound. Against the dollar, I'm not as keen, because I think that the US economy is incredibly robust. But against the euro, and who was it who just pointed the euro?
Gary.
Gary, I mean, I have to say, Gary, thanks so much for that, because I'm now all over that one. That's on my watch list, and I'm going to be trading this, and I don't think I'm going to be far off trading this either. So this is the one I would look at, because if the pound is undervalued, then what's it undervalued against? And you have to look across the board and say, well, just about everything. So I'll be looking at the euro pound as a short, as my pound play. But I think across the board, I think the pound is probably in a position where it could turn.
There we go, Wing. There are two opinions. We're both bullish the pound. I'm just using it versus the dollar because I think the dollar's been the strongest against it, and therefore it's probably got a good gauge when you're putting it up against the strongest currency. So that's why I've gone that way.
Yeah.
All right. Look, guys, thank you. That's our format complete for the day, and you work well with that. I'm really happy with those questions. Thank you. Much appreciated. So we will bid you adieu at this point, and we'll be back next Monday when we'll do exactly the same thing, and hopefully you can be with us then. And yes, there's no more questions. All good. And we'll try and find some trades for you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for the questions and the potential setups that Ash is going to jump all over.
Yeah, thanks so much, Gary. I really like it. Just so you know, I mean, that the price that I'm really hunting down right now is 0.86, probably 0.869, 868, so somewhere in that area. Sorry, no, I've got that wrong. 0.86. Yeah, 0.8680. That's what I'm really after.
There you go. That's where it is.
Between 0.8680 and 0.8690. Yeah. So
not taking out those highs. Happy days.
Hold on a minute. No, that can't be. Sorry, mate. That's not. Yeah. Where have you got? Is that red line, the horizontal line closest to price? Yeah, there. Yep. Exactly. That's where I'm after.
Righto. Not far away from that confluence area. Perfect.
No. Yeah.
All right. We're out of here. Thank you, guys. Much appreciated. Thanks, Ash.
Thanks, mate.
Have a great week ahead, guys. We will catch you next Monday. Bye-bye. For now. See ya.